Today we're going to look at a very interesting sutta. ST 45.18 is the last chapter in the volume. ST 45.18, that is the Paharada Sutta, the discourse to Pahārāda. A 8.19, the theme is the 8 wonderful qualities of the great ocean and of the Dharma-Vinaya. This sutta is often quoted. It summarizes the key characteristics of early Buddhism. It is quoted in the Vinaya and also in the sutta, so it shows the importance of this sutta. And this sutta is also very beautiful in its imageries. It is something that we can use as a reflection, in other words. The Paharada is the name of an asura. An asura, as you know, is a mythical being. So it's a kind of a semi-divine being, if you like, earthbound being, earthbound deity. They usually live in the ocean. The asuras have a long story actually, but briefly, they were suras before. Sura is another term for devas. So they were actually occupying the realm of the 33 gods. So the story goes that these suras, the old gods, if you like in the Greek mythology, the old gods, Uranus and so on, they were kind, they were enjoying themselves, they were a little loose in their behavior and so on. And then you have this new generation of gods led by Sakra. So they were not too happy. They say, oh, look at these gods. They're not worthy of their name. And they are not keeping the precepts. They're getting drunk and so on. So one day when these suras, by the way, the word sura also means strong drink, you see. Sura also means hero. Sura also means God. So you can see the overlapping of this very interesting Indian word, which is, we say it is polysemic, the many meanings overlapping. So these gods were also, they were heroes, yes, but they were also drunk. So because they were drunk, they were inebriate, they were not so aware of what's going on. So these young gods led by Sakra basically, so I say literally, kicked them off the heavens of the 33. Of course, what is interesting about this Buddhist mythology, it's not really that violent. You know, they're just being kicked off heaven and they were falling down. It's very interesting. It's almost a Disney-like thing. They were falling down these great heights, you know, down they went. In fact, the heights were so high, they actually became sober along halfway, and they were still falling, and they said, oh dear, look at us, we are falling, you know. And then they vow never to get drunk again. So it's a kind of like a light-hearted story, a light-hearted kind of hit at being drunk. So they vowed never to drink again. So because of that, they were called asura, no more drinks. And asura also means anti-gods. In other words, they are normal gods. So you have the titans in Greek mythology. So these were the asuras. But in Buddhist psychomythology, the asuras were very fierce, basically very fierce kind of demon-like gods who were basically, you can say they're the worst kind of politicians you can imagine. Their idea is nothing but power and violence. They'll do anything to get what they want. And you have the female version, the asuri. So they're very kind of voluptuous looking, very beautiful. And they will use their beauty to get whatever they want, even to the extent of destroying people who help them. So imagine, this can be quite a violent group of beings. But here, apparently, Paharada is not so violent. There are some of those asuras who are a bit more friendly, if you like, affable. And occasionally we have stories of how, we have often the gods and the asuras, they were often fighting each other because the asuras want to get back their realm in high heaven. So they're always fighting. And as gods, they don't die. They could try to kill each other, but somehow it's like children fighting, having this mock battle. So they will show fear, and then Sakra will think of the Buddha, the three jewels, when the fear arises, things like that. So here is an occasion where you have this conversation between an asura called Paharada and the Buddha. Okay. Okay, let's look at the translation. The Discourse to Paharada, A8.19, page 188. At one time, the Blessed One was staying at the foot of Naleru's neem tree outside Viranja. Okay, this is one of those remote places. You don't often hear of this place. Naleru is a name of one of those beings, and a neem tree is one of those trees with medical qualities, okay, which has healing quality. So very often you see the Buddha sitting under a tree. So this is a common example. Then Paharada, leader of the asuras, approached the Blessed One, saluted him, and stood at one side. So you notice that these non-humans often would stand, the devas, the asuras, whereas humans, they would sit and listen to the Buddha. I think the simple reason is it is more comfortable and more relaxing, less tiring for humans to sit down to listen to the Buddha, who's also sitting down. Another reason is to show respect to the Buddha. If he's sitting, then the audience also sit. If the Buddha was standing, then the audience also would stand. But in the case of the non-humans, they because of their nature, they don't tire so easily. So they would stand. And maybe they don't have that kind of connection with the Buddha that humans tend to have. Anyway, so here Paharada is standing. As Paharada, leader of the asuras, was standing thus at one side, the Blessed One said this to him. So here we see the Buddha engaging this. I mean, what else would the Buddha talk with someone who comes to see him? He would talk about Dharma. Right? So he starts by asking a question. Now, Paharada, do the asuras delight in the great ocean? Now, notice the way this question is asked. It's a kind of a loaded question. I mean, the Buddha is he wants to make sure this is what we talk about. We're going to talk about the great ocean and how the asuras look at this great ocean. Do you delight in the great ocean? Okay? And then Paharada replies, Bhante. Notice he calls the Buddha Bhante. Okay? So there is, after all, some connection, spiritual connection. He respects the Buddha. The asuras do delight in the great ocean. So here, in other words, the Buddha knows this, of course. The Buddha is asking this obvious question for our benefit, we who are reading the suttas today, as a lesson. Then the Buddha launches the next stage. Well, I might as well tell you here, you have two aspects of this sutta. The first is, it is Paharada who is talking. He's going to talk about the 8 special qualities of the ocean, why the asuras delight in the great ocean. And then Paharada is going to ask, what do you think? So what about your Dharma? How is it like? Then the Buddha will say, my Dharma is also similar. It's got 8 qualities. So he shows this wonderful connection. And so you see Paharada very interested, listening, say, wow, even the Dharma has got this very similar or even identical 8 qualities like the great ocean. So whenever he goes back to his ocean, he sees, okay, this quality, he remembers the Buddha's teaching in 8 ways. So you can see here the quality of the Buddha as an amazingly imaginative and great teacher who helps us to remember his teaching. This is where you see truth and beauty working together to educate us in the Dharma. All right, so the Buddha asks, 1.3. Now, Paharada, how many strange and wonderful things about the great ocean do the asuras see, on account of which they delight in it? So how many? Okay, it's not just how many. We're going to talk about it, isn't it? All right. So Paharada replies, there are 8 strange and wonderful things about the great oceans. Okay, so you see this word strange and wonderful, often they kind of come together. Whenever something's amazing, this is the dvandva, this is the couple of words they would use. Okay, now comes the introduction, the preamble. This is Paharada's turn to talk. So this is the world talking, if you like. Okay, so what the theme here, in other words, is that of from the known, the Buddha brings us to the unknown, from the familiar to the unfamiliar, to something we have heard before to something not heard before, from the world to spirituality, from samsara to awakening. Right? So this is the first part, the world, if you like. So the first quality, satisfaction. 2, Paharada says, the great ocean, Bhante, slopes gradually, slides gradually, inclines gradually, not abruptly like a precipice. Bhante, that the great ocean slopes gradually, slides gradually, inclines gradually, not abruptly like a precipice. This, Bhante, is the first strange and wonderful thing about the great ocean, seeing which the asuras delight in the great ocean. So you see the pattern here in the oral tradition. The statement is made, and then the statement is repeated. Okay, and it is said why this quality is there. Okay, so this is to make sure the listener doesn't miss anything. All right. Of course, what's interesting here is we know a lot about oceans today. We know that oceans are not as gradual as this asura tell us. But remember, that's not the point. The asura here is not teaching physical geography. He is just talking about how we are familiar with the ocean, the habitable ocean. We know in the seaside, for example, the shore, the waters, the sea slopes very gently. Of course, there are parts which go much deeper. But in the really deep ocean, we know that there are chasms, right? You find, it's not that the Buddha doesn't know this. There is a sutta where the Buddha says that in the middle of the great ocean, there is a chasm. And people call that chasm hell. But the Buddha said that's not true. It's just a name of this place. So we can't say that ancient Indians did not know that there were chasms and cliffs and precipices in the ocean. But here, the Paharada is talking about the general characteristic of the ocean, and this is going to be very useful because the Buddha is going to use this idea later on. Then, number 2. Furthermore, Bhante, says Paharada, the great ocean is by nature stable. It does not overflow its margin. Okay, so this is, I won't repeat the other extra section, this is just a keyword, because we belong to the scribal tradition, the reading tradition, right? So I will kind of like make it more comfortable for us. So the second quality of the great ocean, says Paharada, it is stable. Again here, it is just generally speaking. We know, for example, there are great tsunamis in the Indian Ocean, and the sea does, in a sense, overflow its level. But the general point is, the ocean is always there. And again, here, this idea is very important. The idea of the stability of the ocean. In other words, when you look, say, from the moon or from some satellite in space, the ocean is there, and you see America has the basic same shape. So does Southeast Asia and Africa and so on. So in that sense, the ocean is stable. And this is the idea which is going to be used later on. All right, then the quality 3, which is in section 4, Paharada continues and says, furthermore, Bhante, the great ocean does not associate with the dead, a carcass. Whatever that is dead, a carcass, the great ocean quickly carries it to the shore, washes it onto shore. So here you are. Again, generally speaking, just provided the person is floating, right? But we know the cases where people do, in a shipwreck, they sink down to the ocean and they die. For example, in Shakespeare's play, where all this, like in the Tempest, you see all these people dying and sinking into the water. Again, here we're not talking about all these geographical things. We're talking about this aspect that we know. We also know of people in shipwreck, they wash ashore. So we are highlighting this effect, if you like, that the ocean pushes the body to shore. Now we have the 4th quality. It's getting even more interesting now. This is section 5. Furthermore, says Paharada, furthermore, Bhante, all the great rivers, sorry?
It's number 4.
Brackets 4, but it is in section 5. Okay. Furthermore, Bhante, all the great rivers, that is to say the Ganges, the Yamuna, the Achiravati, the Sarabu and the Mahi, upon reaching the great ocean, lose their former names and gotras, their origins, come to be known simply as the great ocean. Right? So this is another wonderful quality. We got all these rivers moving. On land, they have various names, the great rivers. But once they flow into the ocean, the waters are simply called the great ocean. So this is another wonderful thing, says the asura Paharada. So here, the asura is kind of proud of these things, okay? But he doesn't know the significance of it until the Buddha points it to him later on. So he's preparing himself, so as it were, without him knowing it, but the Buddha is kind of like helping him along. All right, now we come to the 5th quality of the great ocean. Brackets 5, but this is in section 6 of the paragraphs. Furthermore, Bhante, says Paharada, despite those streams that flow into the great ocean and the showers that fall from the sky, there is manifest neither decrease nor fullness of the great ocean. Okay? Or perhaps we might say, no perceptible increase. Because today the scientists will tell you actually you can measure the height of the ocean, even more or less the volume of the ocean. So here, basically what Paharada is saying, when you look at the ocean, this is what you notice. You have these river waters flowing in, so many rivers, and then you have these rains falling into the ocean, but still the ocean doesn't overflow. Of course, it doesn't mention convection currents, the sun heating up the water evaporating, things like that. Because we're not interested in those details. That's physical geography. Here we are looking at, if you like, the ocean as a thing of beauty, as something that is educational, something that teaches us something. So Paharada says, well, the volume of water in the ocean is not affected, no matter how much water flow into it, no matter how much rain falls into it. Okay, of course there are other ways of explaining this. I mean, a geography teacher probably might take this passage and say, okay, explain this in a manner of physical geography, and you have another interesting lesson there. All right, then the next quality, which is the sixth quality in section 7, Paharada says, furthermore, Bhante, the great ocean has only one taste, the taste of salt. Bhante, that the great ocean has only one taste, a taste of salt. Okay, so this is a wonderful quality that the asuras delight in. So wherever you go, this ocean tastes the same. So here again, we're not interested why or how it became like that. There are stories, but we just say that's what you will notice when you look at the ocean, when you taste the ocean water, no matter where you go. And now number 7, bracket 7, that is passage 8. Paharada says, furthermore, Bhante, the great ocean has many treasures, or jewels, if you like, diverse treasures. In it, there are treasures, that is to say, pearl, crystal, beryl, conch, quartz, coral, silver, gold, ruby, cat's eye, and so on. Right? So, of course, coins are not mentioned here, right? There's a little thing, okay, because those days the sailors don't carry that kind of thing, not so much anyway. So here again we have a time-limited, a cultural kind of experience. That this is what the Indians treasure. To them, coral is something. Although corals are fragile, they are regarded as precious because it's hard to get. You've got to go deep into the ocean to get these things. So you get all these wonderful precious stones, especially pearls, in the ocean, right? So again, this we can definitely understand. And then the asura comes up with number 8, that is section 9. Paharada says, furthermore, Bhante, the great ocean is an abode of great beings. And here, great meaning in size, gargantuan. That is why you have this amplification, the square brackets, gargantuan. Okay, so this is a term used in English literature after gargantua. So it means huge, really huge. In it, there are these beings, that is to say, the Timis, the Timingala, the Timingala, asuras, nagas, Gandharvas. There are in this great ocean beings 100 yojanas long, 200 yojanas long, 300 yojanas long, 400 yojanas long, 500 yojanas long. So this is amazing. This is what the asuras delight in. Now the measurement here, a yojana, again you have a problem here. Normally when we say a yojana, we understand it as about today 7 miles. And 7 miles at about 11.2 kilometers. And that's quite a distance. Can you imagine you multiply that with 100? Wow, we're talking about these creatures are huge, many miles long. So far we have not discovered any such creatures in all the ocean research. But then in my own research I discovered there's another kind of measurement. This is the great yojana, which is 1 yojana is about 7 miles, which is the measure of distance. Now, I noticed that they also use a measure of height. So it's about the height of a person. So it's not, it's kind of shorter and more easier to imagine. So if you say 100 yojanas, it'd be like 100 times my height or a tall guy's height. Let's say 600 feet long. That's not too bad. You can imagine, wow, it is a big thing, like a huge whale and so on. See? So here we're talking about sailors' tales, travelers' tales. So here the Jatakas are full of such records. So these Indians, they were great sailors too, and they've seen some of these amazing creatures. Probably they've seen whales and other, maybe, I don't know if they've seen sea serpents or what they thought was sea serpents. They probably saw giant octopuses. So you can imagine when they tell stories, the length and the sizes become exaggerated. So they became very big. So this Timangala and so on, these are names of ever bigger creatures. You can simply translate them as sea monsters, basically, of varying sizes. So here, Pahārāda is trying to say there are more creatures in the ocean than you can imagine on land, something like that. So these are the 8 things, right? So Pahārāda says, 9.3, these, Bhante, are the 8 strange and wonderful things about the great ocean, seeing which the asuras delight in the great ocean. So here again, imagine who is listening to this teaching. We have the Indian audience. So as they listen to all these wonderful qualities of the ocean, their interest is captured. They're very curious, what's going on here? And then they're even more curious, what's the Buddha going to say? How's the Buddha going to reply to these things? So now we come to the second half, and that's the message the Buddha is going to give us. So what the Buddha is doing here, in a way, he's putting the Dhamma into context. He's putting the Dhamma in the world, so that we, as unawakened beings, are able to connect to the Dhamma. We're able to see the Dhamma in our life, in this world, in other words. All right, so now it's the Buddha's turn. But before that, what's interesting here, Paharada the asura asked the Buddha, 9.4, but Bhante, do the monks delight in the Dharma-Vinaya? So here is a very interesting question. He said, well, we are asuras, we like the ocean, we live in the ocean. So what about the monks? Do they like the Dharma-Vinaya? Now comes the Buddha's turn. The teaching starts. The monks, of course, here will be, these monks, the word monks here is a synecdoche, a kind of a short form for the Buddhist community. In other words, the nuns, laymen, laywomen. Okay? So the Buddha says, the Buddhist community, Paharada, do delight in the Dharma-Vinaya. And then Paharada asks, how do they show it, right? So he's also curious. Then the Buddha starts his teaching, section 10. Paharada, there are 8 strange and wonderful things about the Dharma-Vinaya, seeing which the monks or the Buddhist community, the Buddhist practitioner, delights in the Dharma-Vinaya. What are the 8? The first one, Paharada, just as the great ocean slopes gradually, slides gradually, inclines gradually, not abruptly like a precipice, so too, Paharada, in this Dharma-Vinaya, the training is gradual. The task is gradual. The way is gradual, right? So the teaching, practice, the attaining of the path is gradual, right? So this, Paharada, says the Buddha, is the first delightful quality of the Dharma-Vinaya. So notice here, gradual sloping ocean, gradual Dharma teaching. Now there's a problem here, see, because there is a sutta which actually says that the awakening is a sudden thing. Okay? Where the Buddha tells his congregation, says, the person gets enlightened immediately. But here we have to understand the Buddha is not talking about the training. Okay, he's talking about the moment of awakening seems sudden. Okay, it's just like you take our favorite local fruit, the durian, it takes 7 years to mature. And the durian fruit takes a long time to grow. And you can't pluck this. This is one fruit you cannot pluck. You just wait for it to fall. It will fall when it ripens. And this fruit is very spiky. It's got sharp spikes all around. You wouldn't want to be there when it drops. So when the moment of this ripe fruit dropping is sudden. But it takes a long time for the tree to grow and for the fruit to ripen. So the path is gradual, but the moment of awakening is a moment. So it seems sudden. We have to be aware of that. Okay? So here, throughout the teaching, there is this idea of something gradual. Okay? Okay. Page 191. Huh? Oh, 189, sorry. Okay. Section 11. Okay, so now the Buddha goes on to the second quality of the Dharma-Vinaya. Paharada, just as the great ocean is by nature stable, it does not overflow its margin, so too, Paharada, I have prescribed training rules for my disciples or listeners, which they would not transgress even for life's sake. So this is the second delightful quality of the Dharma-Vinaya. So here, the Buddha compares to the ocean that is stable. No matter how much water flows into it, the ocean is always there. So the disciple, the true disciple of the Buddha, is also stable. Stable means calm, kind of morally virtuous, because there are training rules, the precepts, moral virtue. That is what keeps the order in order, so to speak, right? So the stability of the ocean is compared to the Vinaya, the precepts, the monastic rules. Now the Buddha goes on to number 3, wonderful quality number 3, section 13. Paharada, just as the great ocean does not associate with the dead a carcass, whatever that is dead, a carcass, the great ocean quickly carries it to shore, washes it onto the land. So too, Paharada, the Sangha does not associate with a person who is immoral, of bad character, of impure and suspicious conduct, secretive in deeds, not a recluse but pretending to be one, incelibate but pretending to be celibate, rotten to the core, lustful and filthy by nature. The Sangha communes not with such a one, but having quickly assembled, it expels him, right? So it is a very serious stone here. The Buddha says the Sangha, or should I say the true Sangha, the Sangha of the noble disciples, they will not tolerate someone who breaks the rules or who has broken the rules. For example, there was once the monks were gathered together to recite the Patimokkha. The Buddha was silent, he did not say anything, so they could not start. Until Ananda asked why. He says, well, there is someone here who is impure, who has broken the serious rules. And then this person won't own up. So Moggallana scans the minds of all those assembled, and he managed to identify this bad monk and physically threw him out. So here basically the Sangha, it means here if someone doesn't keep to the rules, doesn't really practice, he will never be part of the noble Sangha. He will never reach the path. So here the noble Sangha refers to the path of awakening. He may wear the robe, he may pretend to be like a monk or nun, but he's not one. As in the famous Gadrabha Samana, Asa Gadrabha Sutta. Right? The cow, the donkey that thinks it's a cow. Okay, so this donkey, of course, here the donkey is taken as a very silly creature, and the cows to the ancient Indians the cows are valuable property. They produce milk and other useful products that the Indians use every day. So the Buddha says, well, this silly donkey follows the cows, so you can see they look different. The donkey doesn't have horns, the hooves are different, everything looks different. But this donkey thinks, I'm a cow too, I'm a cow too. So he says the foolish monk, the bad monastic may wear a robe or may think that he's with the monks, but he's not one. So the idea of true practice, the idea of attaining the state of attaining the path of awakening, it is the purpose of joining the order, the purpose of being a Buddhist. All right, so that's number 3. Then the Buddha goes on to number 4, section 14, the 4th wonderful quality of the Dharma-Vinaya. Paharada, just as all the great rivers, that is to say, the Ganges, the Yamuna, the Acharavati, the Sarabu, and the Mahi, upon reaching the great ocean, losing their former names and gotra or origins, come to be known simply as the great ocean. So too, Paharada, when these 4 classes, the Kshatriyas, the Brahmins, the Vaishyas, the Shudras, having gone forth from the house for the homeless life in the Dharma-Vinaya, proclaimed by the Tathagata, by the Buddha, they abandon their former names and gotras and class, that is, and are simply known as Sakya-Putta recluses, recluses who are sons of the Sakyas. Right? So here, in other words, the Sangha is a classless society. This is very important to understand. We have people from the 4 main classes, and then there is the 5th unscheduled class. Once they become monks, they're all the same. Their goal is to awaken. Right? So the Sangha gives that alternative lifestyle, if you like, way out of a rather troublesome, unjust, oppressive society. I heard some news on online, I hope it's not fake news, that there's a growing number of Indians today, the Hindus and the Brahmins, they are turning to Buddhism because they are so disgusted with all this racial and caste violence, and especially the men, they are being very violent to the women because of their religion. India, as you know, is very religious, so they have this idea somehow that women are kind of a subsidiary level. They are supposed to give pleasure to the men, they're supposed to make babies for the men, and that's about it. So they're not very happy with this now. So many of them, they were giving up their old religion for Buddhism. So you see, in other words, the Buddha is giving this allowance, giving this opportunity for social justice, social emancipation, if you like. And so this is the clause here. You see all those great rivers with all the big names, once they flow into the great ocean, they lose their name, they're simply called the great ocean, the great Sangha, if you like. Now then the Buddha goes on to quality number 5, section 15. Paharada, despite those streams that flow into the great ocean, and the showers that fall from the sky, there is manifest neither decrease nor fullness of the great ocean. No matter how much water falls and fills the ocean, it is never full. It is able to take in the water. So too, Paharada. So, when you say so too, the Buddha is saying, well, you have this quality in the Dharma-Vinaya. So too, Paharada, although many monks or many Buddhist practitioners attain the nirvana element without residue, there is manifest neither decrease nor fullness of that nirvana element is evident, right? So, nirvana itself, you see all these thousands and millions of monks and lay people and beings attaining nirvana, still nirvana is does not overflow with them, right? So you can see here this amazing comparison the Buddha is making. And of course we understand why nirvana doesn't overflow with beings, because nirvana is not a place you go to like some Western paradise or some heaven or some place where you're rewarded. It's not a place. It's beyond space and time. Nirvana is when greed, hatred, delusion are all gone, when the fire has gone out. So because it's a non-place, it never overflows in that sense. So you can see amazingly beautiful analogy here. So that's number 5. Some more beautiful comparisons are coming. Number 6, that's section 16. Paharada, just as the great ocean has only one taste, the taste of salt, so too, Paharada, this Dharma-Vinaya has only one taste, the taste of freedom. This is what the most famous of all the 8 comparisons. The Dhamma has only one taste, the taste of freedom. The purpose of practicing the Dharma-Vinaya is to be free of suffering, is to be liberated, right? So that's the taste of freedom, only one taste. And then comes number 7, section 17. Paharada, the great ocean has many treasures, diverse treasures. In it there are treasures, that is to say, pearl, crystal, beryl, conch, quartz, coral, silver, gold, ruby, cat's eye. Even so too, Paharada, this Dhamma-Vinaya has many treasures, various treasures. Here there are these treasures, that is to say, and then the 7 sets are listed. Okay, so the 7 sets, you total them up, you have what are called the 37 limbs of awakening, the 37 Bojjhangas. Bodhi, Pakya, Dhammas. Right? Then you have these 7 sets are a very ancient collection of teachings, if you like. It basically is a summary of all the methods the Buddha used to present the Dharma. Number 1, the 4 focuses of mindfulness, Satipatthana. Number 2, the 4 right strivings, Samapadana. Number 3, the 4 paths of spiritual success, Iddhipada. Next, number 4, the 4 spiritual faculties, Panchindriya. Then the 4 spiritual powers, Panchabala. The 7 awakening factors, Satta, Bojjhanga. And then you have the noble eightfold path, Arya Atangika Magga. So you total them up, you get 37 awakening factors, right? So these are the treasures. These are called the 7 jewels, okay? But each jewel has got many facets, so totaling 37 facets, if you like. They're called treasures because they enrich our lives and they redeem us from suffering, they free us from suffering. And finally, the Buddha comes to the 8th and last quality, wonderful quality of the Dhamma-Vinaya, section 18. Paharada, the great ocean is an abode of great beings. So here the Buddha is saying something which Paharada knows. He said, well, you told me the great ocean is an abode of huge, gargantuan beings. In it, there are these beings, as to say, the Timis, the Timingala, the Timingala, asuras, nagas, and Gandharvas. There are in the great ocean beings 100 yojanas long, 200 yojanas long, 300 yojanas long, 400 yojanas long, 500 yojanas long. So too, Paharada, this Dharma-Vinaya is the dwelling of great beings. Here there are these beings, that is to say, streamliness, and those practicing for the realization of the fruit of stream winning. One's returners, and those practicing for the realization of the fruit of one's returning. So here we see, in other words, what the Buddha is saying is you have the graduates and the undergraduates, okay, in terms of the saints. The non-returners and those practicing for the fruit of non-returning. The arahats and those practicing for the fruit of arahathood. So these are called 8 individuals. Okay, Attapurisa Puggala. You have the saints to be and then the saints become. So Paharada, the Buddha said, these are the 8 wonderful qualities of the Dharma-Vinaya. So you can see here how the Buddha is able to use the ideas that Paharada has given and give this very beautiful connection, so that Paharada goes away now with a new understanding of the ocean, the very ocean that he lives in, and that ocean has got the Dharma everywhere. So he's able to reflect on the Dharma in that way. So for us too, when we listen to this kind of teaching, it enriches our life. We begin to look around and we see the Dharma everywhere. So as a Buddhist then, yes, today we're being challenged by many other religions, but you can see the good aspects of those religions and you see the Buddha Dharma in those qualities. And then you find you can connect with them. Because you are a Buddhist, so you see Buddhism in those non-Buddhist teachings. It is a language. You listen. I mean, for example, it's just clouds. So people see clouds of different shapes. It's how you see it. So we don't have to follow the world. We must think for ourselves, feel for ourselves, and see the Dharma in everything in our lives. Then we are truly followers of the Buddha. So, with that we conclude this study of this beautiful sutta. Any comments or feedback? So this sutta is the source of many of the well-known teachings. Right? If someone asks you, where did the Buddha say the Dharma-Vinaya has only one taste, the taste of freedom? It comes from here, the Paharada Sutta A8.19. It also, this sutta is also found in the Vinaya, the whole sutta. The Vinaya generally is later than the suttas, so when the Vinaya needs to highlight the importance of a rule or the practice of the Vinaya, they would use the suttas to support that statement. Oh? Yes, you have one. Okay.
This number 5.
Section 5.
No, number 4. The 5 rivers go into the great ocean and use all the energy.
Yes.
And I think there's somewhere that says that in India, all the people of the various tribes, clans or whatever, once they become the they join the monk group. They
Yeah.
all the things and peace.
Yes.
And they just become monks under the Dharma. Now in today's world, we have the Dhamma, which is practiced by various sects of Buddhists.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So how do we relate that to the modern situation?
Those are, we call it acculturation. Acculturation. In other words, Buddhism goes into another country, then a lot of things get interpreted according to the culture. So you imagine like a pyramid, basically. Okay, so on the lowest levels you have all those very cultural things where the people can connect with, and that's what makes Buddhism a daily reality of the people. So you can call this the old Buddhism if you like. So you go to Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, you see that very real to all those people, because to them it is part of their life. Okay, and this happened in China also, and because it happened in China, Buddhism became Chinese. This is the cause. Buddhism becomes Chinese. Right? In other words, the Chinese are able to say, okay, we see this as Chinese, it's not Indian. So this prevents distractors, non-Buddhists, from saying, hey, why are you following a foreign religion? So they use their own language, their own words, for example. They also have rituals for the dead in their own way. So that helps them in their practical daily situation. Of course, that is different. That's not what the Buddha intended. You have a kind of socialization of Buddhism there. But another way is see it as concentric circles. Okay, so you see the outer circle. There are lots of these ritual things, social things, political things. Even the kings make use of Buddhism. For example, Asoka made use of early Buddhism, but Kanishka made use of Mahayana Buddhism because he was not Indian. He felt that the use of Mahayana would be more helpful to him to maintain his empire. So he was not religious actually. He was just using the idea. It's very easy to control people using a religious idea. The emperors of China also did the same. So there are two choices. Either they suppress the religion, or get it into their service. So they make use of religion by appointing the national teacher, okay, the national master. Of course, once there's a national master, it's answerable to the emperor. So it becomes the emperor's Buddhism. So you have this worldly aspect. But underlying all that, when you come to actual practice, any good teacher, in between the lines, if you like, they will be saying, you got to go back to this. You got to give up this worldly aspect. So that there are, very rare though, these great monks who try to run away from the palace, who stay in the forest, try to avoid having to be called up by the emperor. And if the emperor calls, they reluctantly go to the palace. So, in other words, you have two worlds here. The two wheels, as I said. One is the wheel of power, and then the wheel of the empire, and the other is the wheel of the Dharma. Okay? So, any good monk will know you have to go back to the wheel of Dharma if you really want to practice. So, suttas like this remind us that wheel is still available. In the bigger wheel of the world, you can't avoid this bigger wheel of the empire. In a sense, you need to respect that in order to survive. That's true also. But we can always come back to the true will of the Dharma. That choice we can make, in other words. So it's a matter of choice and practicality. And this happens to all religions. The world religion, that is. You have this... Christianity has got those empires, and so to the Muslims. The Hindus, interestingly, they're not such a conquering community though, but it is a dominant religion in India anyway. And then in China, of course, they decide to take a different path, to give up religion. Yeah, so that is a worldly aspect, which, whether we encourage or not, it's there. It's a reality which we have to deal with in the proper way. Okay? So it depends on the courage and the wisdom of the teacher.
I suppose you can maybe interpret it at two levels.
Yeah, of course.
Whether you're Chinese, Indian, Arab or whatever.
Yes.
You're just a monk.
Exactly.
You lose your own personal identity.
It is always there. Yeah.
I suppose the literal application. But on a more wider level, like I said, Buddhism today, everybody practices the Dhamma, but inheritance from Theravada to Mahayana. So that one maybe we got to look at it slightly.
Yeah. Yes. But there is a term modern religion uses. It's called oikomini. Oikomini means the community. Simple term is community. I think as long as you're Buddhist, no matter which community you go to, you find basically you're still welcome there. You find that they see you as a Buddhist, they still respect you. Generally speaking, you still can practice the way you want to practice. It's just that, as I said, it's a choice that we must make. Because all these people, they've got their history behind them, the baggage, if you like. But the new, you have two kinds of Buddhists today. You have the old school, they are called the ethnic Buddhists, traditional Buddhists. Then you have the new ones, they are called the convert Buddhists, especially the Western Buddhists, So they are not interested in the ethnic aspects. So they go straight to the suttas and then they practice it. But what they don't realize actually in doing so, they're also slowly westernizing Buddhism. And then by the next generation, you will see westernized Buddhism, which is more liberal and so on. So in a sense, we can't escape that ethnicity of Buddhism. It is like the durian shell that protects it, but we must also remember what we want is the inside, you see. So that shell is useful in attracting people to celebrate Vesak, for example, but you got to know what Vesak is about. Like this year is quite odd, You find for us in Singapore and Malaysia, we have still not celebrated Vesak. We are celebrating at the end of this month, whereas the rest of the world, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, so I think, they already celebrated it last month. Because this one is because here we follow the Chinese lunar calendar. So you can see here, ethnicity can also separate us sometimes. So you really want to be unified, you've got to go back to the teachings of the Sutta, early Buddhism. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Okay? Well, what you say, in fact, is in section 14. Yeah? Section 14, where all the rivers lose their name, they become the great ocean. Okay. Anything else? No, huh? Okay, let us close the short reflection. The suttas are always there reminding us of why we are Buddhists, how to be truly Buddhists, despite our exteriorities and ethnicity. These are the realities of daily life. In many ways, it makes Buddhism interesting, local culture, it enriches Buddhism, it maintains the interest of the world. It's just like the first 8 comparisons that Paharada raises, that Paharada tells us. That's the world, that's the ethnic aspect of Buddhism. But what we want is what this shell preserves, the inner core, the spirituality, the living quality, and that is the Dhamma. That is what truly liberates us. Speaking in this way is good karma. By the power of such good karma, may we be blessed with wisdom and courage, so that we're able to aspire to attain at least stream winning in this life. And by the power of the three jewels, to let us send our loving kindness to all our loved ones, our family, relatives, and those who have been kind and supportive of us. May they be well and happy. And to this place too, that this place may prosper in the Dhamma, and the people here well and happy. And those who are practicing, seeking the Dhamma, may they awaken in this life too. And those who are lost, may they find the right way to the Noble Eightfold Path in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.